Back to the news review segment of this Power Breakfast show on Citizen TV. My name is Charles, and I'm of course with Mheshimiwa Kimani Jogu Barua, Member of Parliament for Gishugu constituency, Mheshimiwa Jonathan Mweke, Deputy Governor Nairobi, Mheshimiwa Mudhomi Njuki, Member of Parliament for Chuka Igamba Ng'ombe. I just love that name. Mheshimiwa David Nkadienye, Governor Kajiado, and Mheshimiwa Yusuf Hassan, Member of Parliament for Kamukunji. Now, while we were on the break, a very calm, gentlemanly, heated debate here on facts about the issue of pay for doctors. Now, governors on page 8 of the Daily Nation today are now asking for money from the national government to pay doctors for the 100 days that they were on strike. Apparently, President Uhuru Kenyatta over the weekend issued an order that I think it's around the end of last week, issued an order that all the doctors should be paid, but he had a rider that should they try again, they will not even have that job. But the key word here is, key statement here is pay the doctors for the days they were away. The same ultimatum had been issued by Mheshimiwa Raila Odinga while he was at the coast, and Mombasa Governor Ali Hassan Joho said they would comply. I have in my panel this morning Governor and Kadiani and of course Deputy Governor Jonathan Mweke. So are you going to pay the doctors or not?
Good governance dictates that you don't pay people for work they didn't do. And doctors are under counties, and I would want to ask any leader to keep away, especially the politicians in this political atmosphere, to desist from making statements. And what I will do in Kajiado is that I want to sit with my doctors, and I want to look at how many days they worked. Some worked for more days than others, and we will pay them whatever is commensurate to the work they did.
So you will not pay...
It cannot be a blanket thing. It can't be a blanket thing.
Are you defying the president?
It is not a blanket thing. It's not about defiance. It is about that not having been actually appropriate in the first place. It's not really a question of directives or orders. It's a question of looking at the details and even looking at the precedents that we set. By paying people who did not work, what are we saying? Are we saying that if tomorrow another team declared they were on strike and negotiated their way out, somebody would order that they be paid? That is more important than just this case in isolation. We should look at the precedent we are setting in this country.
The part of the return to work agreement was that they would not be victimized and they would be paid for these days that they were not working. Are you contravening that?
Well, there's several things that are wrong in this case.
First of all, is Nairobi going to pay?
Contradictory. We've not sat down to discuss yet as a county executive committee, but we were with the Council of Governors, held the position that we are not going to pay people who have not worked. Because there's no way in the world, Charles, do you pay people who have not worked. But if you look at some of these circumstances, there's a lot of contradiction that's going on. The doctors are saying we're on strike, so pay us. But the court said, doctors, you are on strike illegally. That's why we stopped paying them in the first place. Otherwise, would never have stopped to pay them. And then we use that money to do other things. Then the presidency, who has nothing to do with the counties because health is a devolved function, comes from the outside and tells the counties, now you pay, without understanding the local position of every county and every governor and whether their doctors worked or not. So it's a very complex situation with so many wrongs. So, I mean, Charles, if you have your Shamba boy, he has not come to work, so you decide to use that money to put petrol in your motorcycle. Then your neighbor comes and tells you, now pay this Shamba boy, and you've already spent. He doesn't know what's happening in your house. And this is exactly what has happened because of the political season we are in. So I agree with Governor of Kajiado. Every county has its own local situation. Health is a completely devolved function. Let every governor sit down with their doctors and find out who worked, who didn't work, what arrangements were there. Maybe there are some counties who even were paying the doctors when they're on strike.
So it's not a question of...
It's a very local situation.
Following the directive in totality.
No.
You are starting to be governor. How would you handle this situation? Your party leader, your president has issued an order.
This has nothing absolutely to do with the position or what the president or the leader of opposition has stated on this particular case. It's all about the goodwill to solve the situation and get the ministry, or rather the health sector, moving on smoothly and having motivated doctors looking after the health of our people. Because we are looking at a scenario whereby we have 3 months of practically no very good work in the hospitals and in the other health facilities. And here we have governors who are saying that they can actually not be able to pay because they use money on something else. And I'm wondering, if this money was really meant to take care of the health of our people, how did you move it to buying petrol, you know, or doing other things as per se? The money should have been able to take care of...
Should have been kept somewhere.
For the health. They should be telling us, well, maybe the doctor was away on strike. They hired doctors from Tanzania who they used that money to pay. But we know very well that our hospitals were closed, and up to now, some of them are still closed, like in Tharaka Nithi County. And there's no you can now say that we are not willing to resolve this stalemate. Because what they're trying to do, they're trying to provoke the doctors.
Why are hospitals in Tharaka Nithi closed?
It's something different.
Because
the nurses are now on strike. And most of the hospitals and dispensaries do not have the medicine, and basically it is in chaos.
What have you done as a leader? Because even if you're not the governor, some of these people are still your people. You're a leader, you're supposed to provide solutions.
Yes, definitely we are still negotiating. We are urging, of course, the governor to actually be able to finish this stalemate within the nurses, because it's going to be going for a long time. This is the 15th strike by the nurses, but their reasons are very valid, because they say their money is not remitted when they have loans. They do not have the NHIF. They do not have their money for the loans deducted and remitted as per se.
So you're assuring viewers in Tharaka Nithi that as a leader you're trying to find a solution?
We are trying to find a solution to the problem.
And you see, you're also saying that it is a local situation.
It's a local situation.
Exactly.
But there's a point I don't want us to lose. We are dealing with a very sensitive issue about the doctors. And these are people who do not have a career whereby you can actually be able to substitute with other workers. Alright? It's not like in class where you say, I'm going to hire private teachers, I'm going to hire people who are waiting to go to the university and come and teach. It's about health. Alright? Now, if we are coming out of a situation whereby we say, let's forget the bygones, let's go back to the hospitals and treat our people, and then you start having another stalemate with these doctors, telling them will not pay, even though you're on strike. And of course strikes are usually...
So you're saying part of governance, good governance is goodwill?
Goodwill, yes. To actually be able to look ahead and say, do we want to go back to another 3 months of strike by the doctors?
The question the governors are asking is, where is the money coming from? I'll come to you.
The money is there because
it's not understanding the full picture.
What's the full picture?
The full picture is that you have to look at this in totality. You don't just talk about goodwill. You talk about while the money had been set aside, when the nurses first negotiated, they were given a pay hike. That money in the first place was never in the budget. We had to readjust our budgets, even to get money to pay the 15,000 and the 20,000 that was awarded to the nurses. You know? So here you come again and you're saying, even for somebody who did not work, pay them. Because that is goodwill.
So it's an increment for the nurses that is the fuel for the motorcycle.
It is, yeah. That's the analogy he's drawing. Because the whole budget is disorganized. Because those about 100 days, we have gone through a lot of disorganization. The budget, the discussions, everything is in disarray. So you don't just imagine that there is money somewhere in a pot that you will just...
Yusuf, should these governors pay the doctors?
I think first of all, let me say that the governors and the county governments must abide by the agreement that they reached with the doctors. If that was one of the clauses in the agreement, then surely they should not provoke another strike. They should sit down with the doctors. They should negotiate whatever is necessary. They'll be able to discuss with it. But we must heal the rift that happened. We must repair the damage that has happened. And I think we should treat our doctors and our health services much better than we have done so far. It's not just a question of money. It's a question of attitude. It's a question of dealing with people, other human beings. And health is a very important component of governance. An unhealthy nation is not a nation that is well. And therefore we must urge the county government not to botch this again, and to make sure that in fact we do not have another strike and another health crisis on our hands.
The question is, where do they get the money?
That is a question of details. If I don't believe that the president of the country and the leader of the opposition would just speak on this issue merely because of political exigencies. I think if there is a need for money and it is a requirement in terms of settling this particular issue, then obviously they can discuss with the central government through the normal channels. Maybe
Mheshimiwa Barua.
I think one thing I would like to state is that healthcare is very important. It's one of the most important services this country cannot afford to stay without. I also want to agree with both sides, because it's a question of how to move forward. It should not be taken as a fight between this side and the other side of the divide. And whatever the governors are saying, people should be paid for the time they have worked. It's justified. The other issue is that we should not also, after coming from a negotiation, go again and go against the outcomes of the negotiations. So what I would like to say about goodwill is that both the county government and the national government representatives in that negotiations must show goodwill. If it's a question of being paid and the governors are asking for the money, then they should sit and see, they should see the national government, so that they can actually establish whether there can be a reallocation from the national government, a supplementary budget to meet that situation. But what everybody should work towards is to ensure that in future we do not have this situation happening again. I want to say it's such a sad situation like my case, whereby when all these public hospitals were closed, my daughter, who was only 4 months old, fell. And I was so shocked when I was called, because I thought even the private hospitals were not working. Luckily, I was able to afford an account because of insurance. So what I'm saying is that many Kenyans are dying, have died so far, and others have suffered with bitterness. So this issue of medical practitioners going on strike, the issue should be sorted once and for all. Finally, I would like to say that governors here are talking about this is a local situation. This is a county government situation. The position we have in Kenya is that we have devolution, and devolution is there to stay. In fact, devolution is one of the best things that have happened to this country. But I think we need also to look at it in terms of both. There are two issues of devolution. There's a political devolution and economic devolution. I stand 100% for economic devolution.
Not political.
What we are saying is that a country like Kirinyaga now, we are able to get some money direct from Exchequer to serve our interests, just like Kitui, Wajir, and other places. That is
you decide what to do with the money.
What to do with it. That's excellent. But in terms of linkages between the national and county government, that needs to be relooked, because we need to have that respect remaining and maintaining the unity of the nation as Kenya and one flag.
Food for thought.
You know what? I've observed something very interesting. The doctors were on strike for 100 days. The governors were trying to resolve the doctor strike because the CBA that had been signed was not signed by them and was signed outside of their knowledge. These gentlemen here who are talking about goodwill, we sat down with them here for 100 days. Nobody spoke about goodwill. When the president was refusing to talk to the doctors, these gentlemen were saying goodwill and healthcare is important and hospitals. We were here with them on this show.
I think all
of them were not talking about any of that. It's us who have been consistent. When the president during the devolution conference went and said, the doctors, we can't pay, we won't pay, we'll sack all of you, these gentlemen here didn't talk about goodwill. So it's all lip service. They don't have a stand. And for us, we've had a stand. I've been here for those 100 days, and we had a stand as governors on how we're going to deal with the doctors, and we kept saying, these are our doctors, let every county decide what to do with their doctors. We've been consistent.
Have you heard
these
about
guys are playing politics. It's goodwill when it's convenient, it's not goodwill when it's not convenient.
And every sector is important.
I think the governor is trying to be...
He's made his point.
It's okay, but
I just want to ask
it's okay. Yeah, okay.
There's a wise saying that only a fool never changes his mind. Have you heard it?
Yes, definitely.
Why don't you?
But that is why we have changed.
I'm saying
we have been changing. Yeah, but changing does not mean that you get into inconsistency.
Yes.
And changing does not also mean that you set a bad precedent or you break away from what is universally accepted.
Correct.
You know. So that is not change. That is not within the definition of that change you're talking about. But changing is that actually, when they said give these nurses 15,000 and 20,000, we said where do we get the money? And we negotiated with the treasury, and they gave us the money. And so we are still searching whatever else we can find.
So that is exactly what you're doing here.
And that's why we're changing. We are changing.
The governors must
and each county, some counties have deficits. Some counties have more deficits than others.
Others have
so it cannot, it cannot be a blanket thing. Yes. Because when you just give an order, supposing someone doesn't have the money at all, what do you do?
And when I need to more. Last word on this? So I can explain on the consistency. When I say consistent, we've been consistent that we need to treat our employees properly, and we need to pay them for the work done, and we need to motivate them. And I'll give you a good example. In Nairobi, the doctors were in strike in November, and we resolved that strike in 2 weeks. We sat with them, we asked them what their grievances were, we sorted it out as a local situation, and it was sorted. Then in January, we went on strike because of a CBA that was signed by the national government without the consent of the governors. And then that's the strike that went on for 100 days. We have been consistent also as governors and the Council of Governors saying, listen, we need to resolve this issue. National government, you promised this. Can you sort it out? But all those negotiations also are happening without the governors intervention. They were brought in very late into the game. And you saw this strike was resolved when the national government and the Council of Governors met at the Governor Devolution Conference, and they both agreed on one position. Then the strike ended.
So at least we are certain that if the Council of Governors and the national government meet, there will be money to pay.
I think the issue right now, I would like to say this is that what I'm talking about the linkages is that there is already evident supremacy battles between the national government and the county government. That must come to an end.
And there's a point you're using also. That must come to an end. You know, that is what are you talking about? Even politics in this country. Since 2010, when we
promulgated
the new constitution, everybody in this country has to be prepared to negotiate.
Yes.
It's not directive. That must come to an end. No,
that is because that's okay, because we are serving the same one. Let me tell you, Governor, listen.
1 minute.
Let us discuss.
1 minute.
No, why?
Governor, discuss.
No, let me respond to that.
1 minute. No, Governor, just a minute. Gentlemen, this thing is very clear. He says it's supremacy. He says you should not give orders. It's the same thing.
And it's not a supremacy. It is not supremacy.
Okay. Gentlemen, we've settled that.
Devolution also comes with a say from the counties. A say from the counties.
There's a very, very important point. Very final one. That this nation is one.
Yes.
And when you talk about doctors in Tharaka Nithi being treated different from the ones of Mombasa and Kajiado, then we are mutilating this Kenya into something different. That is why you'll find people moving
all move away from
and go somewhere else. So when we say that pay the doctors, it should be something that will happen across the board. But doctors don't want to hear in Kisumu they have been paid, and the ones of Tharaka Nithi, Kirinyaga have not been paid.
So are you telling me that if they paid their doctors for 70 out of the 100 days, and because the president and the former prime minister have ordered that the doctors be paid, then they pay all their doctors for 100 days?
If they pay 70%, and the cost pays 100%, then another county in Busia pays maybe 50%, then we have a big problem. Because that is very...
You're completely...
We don't talk about doctors
let me educate
what they are saying. They are working for the Kenyans.
Let me educate him a bit. There are already a lot of variances in terms of what we are giving doctors and other workers in the counties. If you are in a Mandera, it might be more difficult for you to attract doctors there. You know, their working conditions might be different. And we have agreed, even at Council of Governors, that if you can afford from within your budget to put in a little more for your doctors there, it is okay. You know, because you need doctors there, but many of them will want to be around Nairobi. So there are already variances. Hardship areas and all that.
Correct.
There are already variances.
It means
variances. And these people are afraid of devolution. This is being afraid of these variances. Don't be afraid. But it's okay.
Wait a minute.
We need some order
Some
here.
people will pay for 70, others will pay for 60. It is not going to be a blanket 100.
Thank you very much. I think we put this to rest. We need to move on. And at this point, because I want us to look at the comments by Mheshimiwa Joseph Nkaiseri, headlines in the Taifa Leo. But before that, we have been at NASA and the flag bearer issue. The Daily Nation on page 4 quotes Mheshimiwa Laboso, the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, and she says nominations will make or break Jubilee. Hassan, how so?
Well, it's absolutely true. If we are now getting organized to do nominations nationally on one day, what we expect is a well-organized, well-coordinated, well-executed nominations that are free and fair. And our supporters are preparing themselves to choose the people they would like to be their governors, their members of parliament, their senators, their MCAs. And therefore, as a new alliance party that is coming into the political stage, we want to make sure that we get that right. And she's absolutely right that if we get it right and things work well, as we hope, then obviously we would be the party to reckon with. And I think that is the expression of every member of Jubilee, that we get it right and we do it well and we come up on top of it.
Mheshimiwa Barua, the other day when parties were being disbanded to join Jubilee, the call was that we want one unified country. The other day when the president was in Wajir, I think yesterday, he was like, don't worry, if you're not nominated on Jubilee, we have this other party and this other party, which are friendly parties. I mean, what exacally does it
Did I hear that myself?
You didn't hear it?
Well, let me actually help my brother, since I was there. You know, there are other parts of this country where a party is and a following of a party is not that significant. There are clan elements. Even parts of Kajiado and Narok would have that. In pastoral societies, party loyalty is not their number one pull factor to participate in the political process. And so I think the leadership accepts the reality that Kenya is uneven. There are some parts where people are more organized and prepared to be associated with the political party.
So after all, Jubilee party cannot unite the country as you thought?
Well, there is a reality in some parts of our country that people are not allied to political parties. And Jubilee and the Jubilee leadership have been realistic. That,
it's an afterthought.
No, it is not an afterthought. We want a united political party that brings all Kenyans together. But as the reality is uneven development, uneven consciousness, the lack of association with political parties, we're not going to lose votes and support simply because one part of the country is simply not ready
to join Jubilee,
with an advanced thinking that they need to belong to a bigger, better party. And in this particular case, that reality has been accepted in some parts of that country.
You need not to worry about that. I think that is part of the effort. What Mheshimiwa Uhuru Kenyatta was doing in Wajir is part of the effort to try and unite Kenya. Because the so small parties that really in the pastoral areas where they don't really subscribe to any one of the big parties, and they said we can have this one on board, and they will share the Jubilee manifesto and the ideals of the Jubilee.
But when Jubilee was being formed, the word was you're either with us or you're against us.
The effort to unite Kenyans is the main point. And going back to the nominations, it's going to be the first ever nominations when we are having the party hopping rule being in place. And therefore, you know, the stakes are very high. It's not like the last time where you would lose on a ticket and you hope to another party. So you understand why we feel that how these nominations are conducted, because it's like a do or die situation where you lose this one, you go home. Then it's so serious because if the machinery has been put in place that not bring in fairness, then there will be doubts on whether these parties really stand for democracy.
You said it's an afterthought.
Yeah, it is, because there was a lot of hullabaloo about this one big party, this one big vehicle carrying everybody. And then it was realized later that actually Kenyans think differently, and different parts of this country behave differently. And so they said, okay, let us adjust. So this is a readjustment of the initial thought, which is okay. It's only that I think when you make a statement and make it, you know, very, very final, you can run into problems, because this country is so diverse. But so we welcome them when they start saying you can start having some other small parties because they realize that if they don't do that, the safety valve, you know,
the tank will burst. There is no safety.
The whole thing will burst.
Very quickly, Jonathan, before we take
some of these parties didn't exist, like the Frontier Party for the Northeastern didn't exist. So what Jubilee did is they thought like Mheshimiwa Njuki. You know, Mheshimiwa Njuki just now said that all counties are the same and you must treat the doctors the same. They thought like that. So they said one big party for everyone. Then they found out, oh, it doesn't work. After they'd folded all the smaller parties into one, and they'd said either you're with us or you are not with us. Then when they realized that all parts of this country are not the same, then now they started going to create. Those parties didn't even exist. They're not even creating new parties, and they're saying they're Jubilee.
Deliberate.
Yeah. So my advice to Mheshimiwa Njuki is when you become the governor, God willing, you'll also realize that counties are distinct and unique. You can't treat them the same.
At least Mheshimiwa Barua now has an idea.
I have an idea, but I have an idea what is being talked about here. I want to say that, without going specific, is that Jubilee idea of uniting this country is long term. It was not just medium short term.
It's not instant coffee.
It's not instant coffee. It's something which has gone through the motions. So what you are talking about, small parties, the president that time was talking to the leader of Jubilee, and he was addressing Jubilee issues. So those are some of the internal issues within Jubilee. Just like you have in, I know these guys don't like me to mention NASA. Like NASA, in many parts of the countries, they are going to have candidates from 4 political parties fighting each other. The reason why they are doing it is because they have not even made an attempt to make CORD a political party, to make NASA a political party, because they cannot get anywhere near that. At least
maybe because they understand the
they are afraid of the truth, and they are actually, the thing is, they are afraid of the truth, and what they want is to ensure that the 4 gentlemen have possessions next year, this year.
Well,
they're just looking for jobs for 4 people.
Well, let's take another short break. We'll be right back after this. Quite a packed dish for us this morning, because we want to look at comments by Nkaiseri. And just before I forget, gentlemen, Dr. Fred Matiang'i on page 8 of the Daily Nation says they are already vetting aspirants. They are already vetting you people. Is it going to be an Armageddon or something of the sort? Are we going to? Is that the reason why political parties are not giving their lists to IEBC? Only 8 out of the 60 registered political parties have given their nomination list. Right after this short break.